The Xiaomi Pad 7 Pro might be Xiaomi's flagship tablet, but odds are, like its predecessors, it's also going to be exclusive to China. Now this though, the Xiaomi Pad 7, it looks to be the one going global, with an Indian launch confirmed for the 10th of January. So after my Pad 7 Pro video where a lot of you guys asked me to cover the regular Pad 7, I ended up buying myself one, and for about 10 days I've been using it as my primary tablet. Now in today's video, let me walk you through what I found good and what I haven't with Xiaomi's latest global launch. Now if this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4eTech, and if you do actually find anything in this video you like, show your support, tap that like button, and if you enjoy seeing coverage of devices before their global launch, that's what I do. Hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on my next video. Let's start with what's in the box, and it's pretty simple. You get the Xiaomi Pad 7 itself, an informational booklet, a USB Type-A to Type-C cable, and a 45-watt charger. Now this is a step up from the 33-watt charger we got the last time around, and the battery capacity hasn't really changed, so the Pad 7, it does charge a little faster. Takes about an hour, 20 minutes to get to 100%. Now one of the most important things for a tablet is its display. And the Pad 7, it shares the exact same panel as the Pad 7 Pro. So let me quickly cut to a relevant bit from my 7 Pro coverage. Rest assured, I've tested both out to confirm everything's exactly the same, it's identical. Xiaomi seems to have done a great job. The Pad 7 Pro sports a 11.2-inch 3:2 aspect ratio panel. So compared to the 6 Pro's 11-inch 16:10 panel last year, it's like there is just this extra part tacked on. So we get about 6.5% extra screen real estate. Now this change, it's got its own pros and cons, and let's start with the pros. A 3:2 aspect ratio, when you hold the device in portrait, the extra width, it's better for browsing and any text-related stuff for that matter, like reading books or even comics. And when you use it to multitask in landscape, you end up with two apps, each in a 4:3 aspect ratio. And multitasking is a huge part of HyperOS 2 for tablets, and we'll talk about that in detail in just a bit. On the flip side, 3:2 aspect ratios do cause bigger black bars when you're viewing TV shows which are usually 16:9 or movies which are typically 21:9. To be fair though, Xiaomi's increase in display size means your viewing area for movies and modern TV hasn't really changed from the Pad 6 Pro. You just have bigger black bars now. And actually, when it comes to watching old 4:3 content, your experience is a little better. Now this here is an IPS LCD panel. It doesn't have the deep blacks that you typically see with OLED, but the contrast ratio here seems high enough for the blacks to not really bother you when watching content in the dark. The display resolution has also been increased. This is a 12-bit 3.2K panel here, so the pixel density is up to 344 pixels per inch. The refresh rate, it remains at a high 144 Hz. Now given it's an LCD panel, there is no OLED flicker to worry about. Now Xiaomi has also got the brightness up this time. This panel outputs about 600 nits under manual mode and 800 under auto, which is quite bright by tablet standards. And there is also support for HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision for HDR playback. Paired with this excellent panel are 4 loud and rich speakers. And here you get to choose between Xiaomi's own tuning and Dolby Atmos. Let me let you in on a little secret. Dolby's better. There's also an immersive sound option that kind of makes the output sound a little wider. I'm not sure if I can capture it well here, but let me try. This is Xiaomi sound. Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos with immersive sound. Now, if you're not happy with any of this and want to dial in your own settings, there is a custom equalizer that allows you to do just that. Okay, now coming back, as you've seen, the display and the speakers, they are identical, but there are other differences between these two tablets. So let's talk about them, and let's start with the cameras. We get an 8-megapixel selfie camera instead of 32 and a 13-megapixel rear camera instead of 50. But honestly guys, I won't read too much into this. These are tablet cameras. The selfie, it's still good enough for your video calls, and the 13-megapixel rear camera, it's still good enough for the occasional document scans. So personally, I don't really care about this. What about you? on a scale of 1 to 10, how important a tablet camera is to you? Let me know in the comments below. Now, what I do care about though, a lot, is the performance on the inside, and that obviously differs here from the Pro model. Unlike the Xiaomi Pad 5 and the Xiaomi Pad 6, this time Xiaomi's gone for a 7 series chip. But it is not a downgrade. In fact, it's a substantial upgrade. Let me explain. Now last year, the Xiaomi Pad 6, it was like 4 generations behind the current flagship SoC back then. So last year, the flagship SoC, it was the 8 Gen 3. So before that, we've got the 8 Gen 2, the 8 Gen 1, the 888, the 865. And the Pad 6 was kind of powered by the 865. The 870 is a slightly better version of the 865. Now, if Xiaomi were to do something similar this year, they'd have had to put a 888 or a 888 Plus on the Pad 7. But instead, Xiaomi's gone with a SoC that happens to be better than the 8 Plus Gen 1. In fact, CPU-wise, the 7 Plus Gen 3, in fact, it uses the same cores as the 8 Gen 3, just with lower clocks. But the CPU, it's almost at 8 Gen 2 levels. While the GPU is lower than that, it's still significantly better than the 8 Plus Gen 1. So instead of being 4 generations behind the current flagship SoC, this time the Xiaomi Pad 7, you have the 8 Elite, below that you've got the 8 Gen 3, 8 Gen 2, and it's slightly below that, making it about 2.5 generations behind the current flagship SoC. Now that is great in theory, but how well does that actually translate to real usage? Turns out very well. The body, it never got hot at all, maxing out at about 40 degrees on a stress test where the GPU managed to retain 90% of its peak performance despite being continuously pushed for 20 minutes. So great stability, very good thermal management, which is very out of character for Xiaomi, but gotta give the devil its due, they've done a very good job. Now the 7 Plus Gen 3 here, it's paired with 8 or 12 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM and 128, 256 or 512 gigs of storage. The 128 is UFS 3.1, the other is UFS 4. Do know that the base RAM is now 8 gigs up from 6. That extra RAM and the more powerful SoC do help you get an almost flagship-esque software experience. This is HyperOS 2 built atop Android 15, and everything we saw on the Pad 7 Pro, it's available here and feels about the same. The animations, they're a lot more fluid. The Pad 7, it felt very responsive. They improved multitasking with dragging from the corners to pop an app into a floating window. That's just as well implemented here. At one time, you can have 2 apps running in split screen with another 2 floating on top. Alternatively, there's that workstation mode which causes all apps to open in a floating window. And again, you can have up to 4 apps open at once. So Xiaomi does provide you the tools to take advantage of all that screen real estate. You also get similar AI functionality like the option to change a still into a small video wallpaper. It's a nice little novelty. Then others like AI Eraser also present and work quite well here. Also worth noting is the fact that the Pad 7 has actually gotten slimmer. It's only 6.2mm thick now. And yes, it's technically gotten heavier, but barely so by just 10 grams. So in hand, the feel, it's quite similar. The metal build continues to give it that premium feel, the way it's spread out nicely, so it's as ergonomic as a 11.2-inch tablet can be. Now here are a few other things worth noting. The IR blaster is in the camera array here. You still get support for a stylus that's paired and charged magnetically. There's also a support for a keyboard case via these pogo pins right here. There's Bluetooth 5.4 and Wi-Fi 6E. Also, the Type-C port is USB 3.2 Gen 1. You can mirror your screen to an external monitor, but there is no DeX-like desktop mode support here. And on that note, let's switch on over to the cons. Like I said, there is no desktop mode here. There's also no headphone jack this big, no headphone jack. There is no microSD support. There is no cellular version, even if you wanted to pay more. And I guess because of the lack of a cellular version, Xiaomi considered GPS useless, because that's missing too. And still, we don't have a fingerprint scanner. So you're gonna have to stick to patterns, passwords, or face unlock for security. Add to all of this, there's also some lack of clarity from Xiaomi with respect to software updates on their tablets globally, which I see as a major negative. And finally, there is battery life. Now, I'm not gonna call this a negative as much as I initially thought I would, because when I started testing this tablet out, the battery life, it was surprisingly bad. But after a recent update I received around the 2nd or 3rd day I was using it, it's gotten a lot better. It's pretty much what I was getting with the Pad 6. Personally, if you ask me if you care a lot about battery life, 2024 or early 2025 is not the right time for you to be getting a tablet. Because if you look at almost every phone that's launching right now, they all have silicon carbon batteries, which means most probably next year around this time you're going to be seeing a lot of tablets launch with silicon carbon batteries. That would kind of mean getting a tablet the same size but with at least 20% higher capacity batteries. Now, that said, everybody cannot afford to wait for a year. So if you do need to buy a tablet right now, today, the Pad 7, despite its flaws, it does feel like an excellent option, made all the more alluring because of the pricing. Because the Chinese launch price for the third year in a row has remained unchanged at 1999 renminbi. And the last two tablets, the Xiaomi Pad 5 and the Xiaomi Pad 6, they launched in India at 26,999. So odds are this one could probably launch at the same price too. And if it does, it feels like the Pad 7 would be an excellent choice for anyone looking for a tablet in that price segment. And that is my conclusion. What do you guys think about this tablet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Ash out. Oh, Merry Christmas, belated.